Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Wrestle Kingdom 13 review. We only have 3 matches left, but I figured that I should probably, for as long as the last video went, break this down into something a little bit more digestible. So, we still have Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada, Tetsuya Naito versus Chris Jericho, and Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega. These are clearly the 3 top card matches. Okada had a great start to 2018, kicking off the groundwork for breaking the record of longest reigning IWGP champion of all time, currently or previously held by Tanahashi. The Okada Tanahashi story was a big focus around the mid 2018. Leading into Dominion, where Omega finally won the title back from Okada in a program that's just absolutely amazing. You can really see why New Japan wants to keep Kenny Omega. But it looks like we are building up a new villainous heel in Jay Switchblade White, who's had a hell of a year, re-debuting in New Japan and with the new character of Switchblade, fresh off of his excursion. First match against Hiroshi Tanahashi, and now here he is 1 year later at Wrestle Kingdom 13, going up against Kazuchika Okada, arguably the ace of the current age. So this is really cool. Jay White comes out. He's got all white on instead of all the black. He still has all the slash marks on there. He's accompanied by Gedo, Okada's former manager. Gedo, as you may know, betrayed Okada back in September. They had seemingly amicably parted ways during the G1, and it led to Gedo stabbing him in the back, metaphorically speaking, but literally hitting him in the back with a steel chair, and joining Jay White. Jay White then, alongside Gedo and Jado, were jumped into the Bullet Club run by the Tongans, and Jay White is now the de facto leader, as said by Tama Tonga. So right now, he's the top guy in the Bullet Club, and looks like he's being built up for great things. So he comes out, he's looking great. He's got Gedo with him. Okada has kind of been on some unhappy streak since losing the title back at Dominion. He had dyed his hair red. He got rid of the coat. He'd been wearing T-shirts. He was wearing long pants for all of 2018. He would come out with balloons. He had a remix of the Rainmaker theme. But tonight, he went back to his old ways. He had the coat. He had the old Rainmaker theme. Money was raining from the sky. So, rest in peace all streaming devices, because those are fun to catch. But he seems to have gone back to his ways of being the Rainmaker as a way of fighting Jay White. They did a really good match, and in the end, Jay White was the victor, winning clean. Okada had managed to hit a discus Rainmaker and went up to go for another one, but it got countered into a Blade Runner. And as soon as Jay had hit the Blade Runner, he was able to pin him. Now, it's important to note that Jay White never kicked out of the Rainmaker, which a few people have. I believe Tanahashi, Omega, and Naito have all kicked out of the Rainmaker at this point. So it's interesting that they did not have him kick out of the Rainmaker here. He was lifted right up after being hit with one. There was no pinfall attempt, so they're still protecting the Rainmaker a little bit. It's kind of like Jay managed to capitalize on Okada not fully being back. I think the story here is that Okada is realizing that to become the Rainmaker again, it's more than just dressing like the Rainmaker and doing the old entrances and being his old self. There's more to it. There's a mindset that he has to get into. I think that's where they're going with this, which will be very interesting to see where they go next. Since Jay White has beaten Okada, Jay White declared that he is the next number one contender for the IWGP Heavyweight title. which should be very interesting to see when that happens in February. Next up, we had Naito versus Chris Jericho for the IWGP Intercontinental title, and it was like 3 a.m. at this point. Kind of tired out, but this was a shot of adrenaline. You know the WrestleMania 33, the Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg match, how that was just a 5-minute rush of adrenaline? This was kind of like that, except it was closer to 30 minutes. The night before, they had announced that it was going to be no disqualification as a way of helping this match stand out from other matches on the card. Now, in New Japan, it's almost pointless to declare your match to be no disqualification because it's very rare that you get DQ'd for use of weapons. It happens very frequently, but here it was kind of a way of like communicating to the audience that this match is going to be very, very violent and very brutal from the get-go. And they did that. So at their last encounter at Dominion, Chris Jericho won the Intercontinental title from Naito. Naito had tried to kind of remain tranquilo and was very calm and collected throughout the whole thing. But Jericho was just an absolute madman, blindsided Naito and just took him out during his entrance and maintained momentum and ended up winning that night. Tonight, Naito thinks that turnabout is fair play and blindsided Jericho while Jericho is making his entrance. He's holding the Intercontinental title up, and Naito just runs up behind him and lays into him. He was not going slow. Naito usually likes to do his little lock-up fake-out spot whenever he's starting a match, but he didn't do it here. He took all of his ring gear. He took his suit off, so he was down to his ring gear already. He did not wait for the bell to begin. He was a lot less tranquilo than he normally is. Dragged Jericho up to the ramp. The bell had rung. The match had begun. Very first move of the match, he delivers a pile driver. Just a standard sit-out pile driver on the entrance ramp. We saw later that this actually tore out a clump of hair from Jericho's head. That was the first move, and Naito sits up. He doesn't do his little taunt thing. He doesn't do anything like that. He just sits up and looks around like, yeah, this is kind of how we're going to do tonight. We're just going to ruin people. And that's exactly what he did. He throws Jericho back into the ring, lays into him, throws him back out. He goes for his dive. He does his bounce off the ropes. He does his front roll, like usually he does that into the Tranquilo pose, but after he does the roll, he just stands back up and just goes for another suicide dive instead. An actual suicide dive. He's almost like the fake out is a fake out. But Jericho grabs a kendo stick and just smacks Naito right in the head. And now Jericho's got momentum. This looked absolutely nasty. Seeing it at first. Because it looked like Naito just got clobbered with this thing. They showed the replay and you kind of see that it got him right in the shoulder, so that ruined the illusion a little bit. But in that moment, it was just the most brutal, sick kendo shot that I've seen in all my years of watching wrestling. So what else happened in that match? So throughout that, Jericho continued to work him over with the kendo stick, and then Naito got the kendo stick back and he started beating on Jericho with it. There was one cool spot where he starts winding it up like it's a baseball bat and just goes to swing. Hits Jericho pretty hard in the stomach with the kendo stick. He's walking around with the kendo stick. He's doing like a full baseball thing. Naito is a huge fan of the Hiroshima Carps, so he's a very big baseball fan. So he's getting ready. He's doing the whole, the baseball thing. He winds up and takes a swing at Jericho, and you can see like the top part that holds the kendo stick together just fly off, and Jericho ducks and misses. And Jericho lays him out. So that was pretty neat. Jericho then picks up the kendo stick And it's like, nah, we don't need this anymore. Throws it aside and goes outside and brings in 8 folding chairs and just throws them into the ring. It looks like he actually hit Naito with one of them as it was coming in. Just absolutely crazy build up. I believe there was a tease of something being done on the chairs. Naito manages to find a way to like fight out of all of that, and they brawl some more. There was a Walls of Jericho spot where Naito was able to get the kendo stick and was able to get out of it by hitting on Jericho in the face with that, because there was no DQ. The rope break wasn't going to save him. Let's see. There was a nasty shot on the chairs. I don't really remember that, but at some point, I think early in the match, the turnbuckle pad came off. Someone taking the turnbuckle pad, and it was fairly early on because both times I watched the match, I had forgotten that it was removed, and I should have made note of it, but it was removed, and that actually played into the finish, which was amazing that I ended up forgetting about it. So chalk that up to amazing camera work by the New Japan team. And I'm sorry, my cat is a bit of a distraction. I can't help her. Let's see. Next up, they continue to brawl. Jericho is about to hit Naito with a chair, and then he decides the chair is not good enough now. So he goes out and he grabs the belt. Naito has a history with the Intercontinental title, the physical belt. He destroyed the last one because he hates it. He hates what it represents. But he really wanted to take it away from Chris Jericho because it was going to hurt Jericho. So Jericho brings the belt in the ring and he tries to swing at Naito with it, but he misses. Naito gets the upper hand. Now Naito has the belt and he's looking at it like, oh, hey, you can help me today. And just wangs Chris Jericho over the head with this belt. And then lays him out with the Destino for the win. Which was great because he just runs him over with the belt, hits him clean in the head like that, and just throws the belt up in the air like he's already done with it. Like, I don't even care about this anymore. I hate holding it. Great little spot there. And he pins him 1, 2, 3 for the win, and now Naito is the Intercontinental Champion again. I loved this match because it was very chaotic, very fast-paced. Even the slow bits still felt very necessary. Chris Jericho did a lion salt like he did when he was 24. And now I think he's about 50 now. He's still doing it just as well as he's ever done it. And he went over halfway across the ring doing it. It was really good on his end. There was a lot of little things done by Naito and Jericho throughout the match. Most notably, when Naito is trying to kick out of a code breaker, or Jericho is trying to kick out of the Destino, you could see them kicking their legs as if they're fighting to get out. Usually when someone covers someone, the person being covered lays still for a second or two, and then just gets a shoulder up or kicks out at the last second, and that's it. But for them, they really sold it like they were fighting to get out of the pin. So you can see Naito getting hit with the code breaker, and he starts kicking, trying to get out of it, and he is able to get out at the last second. Great thing. In the finish to the match, after Chris Jericho had taken a shot from the exposed turnbuckle, a shot with the Intercontinental title belt, and then finally hit with a Destino, he's laying there and he's just completely gone and out of it. But right as the ref is about to bring his hand down for the 3 count, you see this really weak and pathetic kick with his non-hooked leg. Like he's trying to kick out until the very, very, very end. What this does is, in that split second watching this live, you think, oh my god, this is not the finish? Jericho's going to kick out of this? But he doesn't. He tries to, but he does not kick out. That was a spot that I absolutely appreciated and really drives home the fact that Naito and Jericho are geniuses of this sport and deserve a lot more credit than they either are not already getting, or whatever credit they are getting is very well deserved. They're that good at this. And if it wasn't due to Naito's age, could probably be mainstay IWGP champion. He's probably at the point where he's probably always going to be in the same breath as the IWGP heavyweight title, but he may not be the full-on main eventer, at least for Wrestle Kingdom, which is unfortunate. Naito's whole story arc revolves around him wanting to be the main event. He wants to be the Shuyaku, the top star of New Japan. And it took a very long time for him to get back into the position that he is now. He was initially given that Roman Reigns push. The crowd did not react well to it. It cost him main eventing Wrestle Kingdom 8, sent him on excursion to Mexico, but he came back with all the right tools. He was very bitter, very angry, very doesn't care about anything here at New Japan anymore. He only cares about what it can do for him and about his new allegiance to Los Ingobernables. He then forms Los Ingobernables de Japón. The rest is history. Naito, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful wrestling mind. I will follow this man until I die. I wish him the best of luck. I hope to see Naito get a good IWGP heavyweight run, even if it's not in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. He deserves to be at the top spot. And with recent news, he might move up there. So who knows? So let's move into our main event. Kenny Omega defending the IWGP title against Hiroshi Tanahashi. This is a very interesting match from the setup because they are arguing over ideals. They are debating over how New Japan should be presented, not just for the future, but for expansions into the U.S., which is a big, bold move by the new management of New Japan, so this move into America. Kenny Omega represents the new, exciting, flashy style where people are kind of like cool heels. You could be the bad guy, but we love that they're so bad. As long as they're good in the ring, it can do a lot of exciting, high-octane moves. Hiroshi Tanahashi represents the hero of yesteryear, almost. He is the former ace of New Japan. He represents that old style of what wrestling needs to be, what a good guy should be, and what a bad guy is. He says Kenny Omega is a bad guy because of his style of wrestling. He tries to pander to the fans, but he doesn't treat wrestling with respect. Hiroshi Tanahashi claims that wrestling should be settled in the ring, and that is how it should always be. You should wrestle within the confines of that ring. None of this going outside, none of this comedy stuff that Kenny Omega loves to do, no big old weapon spots. Everything should be told there. So you have this clash of styles, almost, between the two of them. Tanahashi comes out. He is the winner of the G1 Climax from 2018. The winner of the G1 Climax is guaranteed the main event at the Tokyo Dome in the main event against the heavyweight champion. The last few years or so, I don't know exactly how long back this goes, but the winner of the G1 has not gone on to win the title in the main event. Kenny Omega failed to do so at Wrestle Kingdom 11. Tetsuya Naito failed to do so at Wrestle Kingdom 12. Here we have Tanahashi going up against the younger Kenny Omega in a match that really a lot of people felt more for Kenny Omega here. It really looked like things might continue. But we also saw the end of the Heisei era coming in Japan, where their current emperor is stepping down in April and will begin a new era over there as his son takes over.
So there seriously was this big theme of change in the air and in all of Japan. So it was very interesting for this match going in. Tanahashi comes out. He's just as he's always been. He comes out. He's saying, "Go Ace." He's got his coat on. He's carrying his G1 belt. He's looking great. Kenny Omega's entrance begins, plays the music, but then it stops, and it plays that Undertale video that he had collaborated with Toby Fox on. And then music from Undertale kicks in, and out comes Kenny Omega. He's dressed up like a character from the Undertale sequel, Deltarune. He's got the title, and he just looks absolutely, pardon the pun, considering it's Undertale, but he looks filled with determination here. He is determined to win. He is determined to remain the IWGP champion. He is determined to change the world. He is determined to change the landscape of professional wrestling. That's what he is set out to do here. Whereas Tanahashi is wanting to say, no change. We need to go back to how wrestling should be. You almost feel this big war between generations almost. It's a big thing over here in the States as well, between baby boomers and millennials. You can really get that sense of both sides have correct, valid arguments to them, but none of them can really come to the point and agree that, okay, yeah, we'll try this your way. And you see this here in the match. They begin and they try to lock up, and you can see Kenny Omega getting frustrated early on with his facial expressions as he tries to lock up with Tanahashi, but Tanahashi's not locking up the way that Kenny locks up. So there's a lot of, I don't want to call it miscommunication, but it does look like they're just not blending together as far as being able to wrestle. Kenny wrestles Tanahashi up into the ropes and kind of gives him a cute little slap on the face. Just kind of be like, oh, you know, he's being cute. Tanahashi sees this as Kenny's not taking this seriously and gives him a hard slap right across the face. Just takes Kenny completely by surprise. Kenny Omega turns back in, does some power moves, but gets rolled up into a pinfall attempt. Kenny's taken aback here, and Tanahashi begins work on the knee. Now, the body parts that they choose to lock on to is Tanahashi working the leg of Kenny, and Kenny works the back of Tana. Commentary mentions that 2018 should have been the best year of Kenny's life, having started the year with a fantastic match against Chris Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom 12, yes. And moving on to winning the IWGP Heavyweight title and reuniting with Kota Ibushi. But it's not been that great of a year for Kenny because it's been mired with damaged relationships. You saw this at Dominion where the VTR showed that getting to the point where he could challenge for the heavyweight title again cost him his spot in the Bullet Club. He was no longer part of the Bullet Club. His relationship with Cody was strained over the whole thing. They got kicked out of the Bullet Club officially by the Tongans, the original Bullet Club members. And even though he got to reconcile with Kota Ibushi, the title got in the way of their relationship as well during the three-way match between Kenny Omega, Cody, and Kota Ibushi, where Kenny pulled Kota off of a pinfall attempt on Cody so that he could save his title. Important stuff, and New Japan really could have told something else with this, but I'm guessing there was a lot of pushback from them. I know the whole Kota Ibushi, the Golden Lovers story was something Kenny had to fight long and hard for in order to get the okay. Let's see. Kenny hits Tanahashi off a rebound with a knee, but he starts to sell. The leg is hurt. So here we can kind of see the working the body part things coming into play here. Let's see. Then the heat gets turned up when Kenny slams Tanahashi onto the Japanese announce desk. Kenny is mocking him. He's making a whole bunch of facial expressions, like teasing him, saying, "Oh, look what I did." He pulls the table out from under the ring. He's beating on it. He's starting to chant in Japanese that translated to "I have no grace," mocking what Tanahashi had said, criticized him for. He sets the table up. They get Tanahashi back up on the ring floor. Let's see. Tanahashi takes control. He looks over at the table and you can see him thinking about using it. And he picks Kenny up and it looks like he's going to throw him onto the table, but then completely rotates around him and throws him back into the ring instead. There was that little spot. So they brawl some more. Kenny's still feeling like he's kind of in control. He tries to go for the Rise of the Terminator, where he's in the Terminator pose and he's kind of beating on the canvas with the crowd, but Tanahashi sees what's going on, rolls into the ring and just kicks him there. Let's see, Kenny takes control again. He throws Tanahashi back out on towards the ramp. Does the Rise of the Terminator, but he lands hard on the ramp out there on his back. It looked really nasty. About as nasty as his Wrestle Kingdom 11 bump when he went through the table off over the top rope. Let's see, and I thought that was interesting that there was a lot of spots that kind of reminded me of his Wrestle Kingdom 11 match. Tanahashi starts to power up through a whole lot of strikes. It looks like he's kind of hulking up, but Omega cuts him down with a V-trigger. At this point, Don Callis on commentary mentions that he just needs to hit the One-Winged Angel, and this is going to end the match. If he hits the One-Winged Angel, that is going to end everything for him. And so he goes for it, but it gets reversed into a twist and shout, which that attempt also gets reversed, where Omega now has him up on his shoulders, and he's going for his rolling senton into the moonsault. So he goes up there, he's like, "You can't escape." Rolls forward, but before he can hop up onto the second rope to do his moonsault, he stops because his knee hurts, and he's selling that knee injury. That his knee has been hurt from Tanahashi. So this gives Tanahashi enough time to recover. Kenny hops up onto the second rope, ready to do his moonsault. His back is to Tanahashi. He doesn't see that Tanahashi's gotten up, and Tanahashi grabs the injured leg and does a dragon screw from behind, which off of the second rope, nonetheless. It looks violent. It's like he rips the calf right out from the at the point of the knee, and Kenny falls down and lands on his other leg awkwardly as well. So it was just the nastiest looking fall that could have happened, and really looked like the legs were getting tore up. Tanahashi immediately capitalizes on this, goes for a Texas Cloverleaf hold. Omega is fighting through the pain. He works his way between Tanahashi's legs as a way of relieving the pain. But then Tanahashi wraps his legs over Omega's arms and hits a Styles Clash, which the crowd immediately recognized and really got into because, not only does it harken to AJ Styles, the former leader of the Bullet Club, so Tanahashi's kind of twisting the knife here, as it were, but it also, being the Styles Clash, represents the Styles Clash that we are seeing in the ring tonight. The clash between Omega's wanting to change the landscape of pro wrestling. Tanahashi saying wrestling needs to be this certain way. Really good spot. Crowd popped for it. They're way into it. Let's see. High fly flow attempt, but Kenny gets the knees up. The timing on this spot was just absolutely insane, the way they were able to do it, and you get to really appreciate it on the slow-mo replay, is that the high fly flow, Tanahashi leaps off the top turnbuckle. He brings his arms in and extends them out. It's like a 5-star frog splash, like RVD used to do. But Omega waits until his arms are extended out like this and is coming down. to pull the knees up. So Tanahashi has no time to react. He can't pull his own arms in. He can't prepare to absorb the blow. He can't see that the knees are up in time to react to it. So he lands completely open-bellied on the knees and just bounces up off of them and rolls off and is in tremendous pain. Great timing by Kenny Omega. And it wasn't the only time he had particularly great timing either. Let's see. After that, Kenny tries for a V-trigger in the corner. Tana ducks out of the way. Kenny's knee slams hard into the turnbuckle. Sick thud. Tana gives this leg another dragon screw. Oh man, his legs are just... Sorry, my cat's distracting. Sorry, baby. Let's see, where are we? Let's see. Tanahashi goes for his first sling blade of the match. They are on the ring frame, that the side of the apron outside of the match. Tanahashi just kind of floats over, grabs him by the neck, and slams him perfectly down on the ring and lands just on the outside. It's such a beautiful execution of the move. You really got to see it and appreciate just how good these two are at wrestling. It's such a slick looking spot. So much could have gone wrong. Tanahashi could have landed on his tailbone. He could have he could have pulled Kenny off of the apron, hit his head on the corner. But none of that happened. It was beautifully executed. It was a scary looking spot. It was very intense. I would not trust anyone but the all-time greats to do something like this. And these two are absolutely the all-time greats. Let's see. He stands up. He's outside. He looks over at the table. And we're reminded that table is still up. And he grabs Kenny. He looks like he's about to throw him into the ring. But then Tanahashi pulls him over his side and actually lifts him up and places him on the table. The crowd is going crazy because Tanahashi is kind of stepping down to Kenny Omega's territory here. He's dirtying himself. He's trying to do this dirty wrestling. He climbs up to the top rope and goes for a high fly flow off of the top rope to the outside. And Kenny rolls off the table at the last second again. And Tanahashi just crashes through this table. It was so sick. It didn't look like the table had any... it didn't look like it did anything to like stop the burn. He just went right through it and just lands and face plants on the outside. It looked like he died. It was just disgusting there. So then the referee begins the count. And Kenny kind of has this look on his face like, hey, you know what? I can win by count out. And he gets up and he's like halfway into the back into the ring and he sees something wash over his face. And he's like, no, I can't have it end like this. No, I'm not going to let it end like this. Not for Tanahashi. Picks Tanahashi up and rolls him back into the ring. Great show of class. Almost like he's trying to show Tanahashi that he's not a bad guy. He's not a dirty wrestler. He just wrestles differently. Kenny drapes Tanahashi over the second rope and hits a double stomp off the top rope to Tanahashi's back, which, as I said before, he was what he's been focusing on the whole match. The double stomp is a little bit of a shout out to Kota Ibushi, who could not be out tonight due to the concussion he suffered in his match against Will Ospreay. Let's see. Kenny goes for a triple powerbomb. Powerbomb, pinfall cover. Tanahashi kicks out. But Kenny holds on. Does another powerbomb. Does a cover. Tanahashi's able to roll his shoulder up. Gets out. Goes for another powerbomb. Does the absolute tighter than a walnut corset looking pinfall. Tanahashi's able to roll up. He's not exploding out of these pinfalls. He looks like he's very exhausted, but he's just fighting just to get the shoulder up so the pinfall has to be broken. Kenny's furious. He was going super tight on these pinfalls. These look like the pinfalls you see during the finish. And it was just nothing. It was not enough to finish off Tanahashi. Let's see. There's a bit of a chopping and striking exchange. Kenny's clearly in the driver's seat. Tanahashi's refusing to fall down. But Kenny manages to get him down onto his hands and knees and gives him some brutal knee strikes right into the rib cage, right into the side, right here. Just tenderizes him, kind of like what we would see from Brock Lesnar in 2003. Kenny gives Tanahashi a high fly flow of his own, goes to the top rope, high fly flow, lands on Tanahashi, but Tanahashi kicks out right at one. Like, oh no, you did not just hit me with my own finisher. Kenny's a little distraught here. Tanahashi at this point looks completely out of it. He's moving completely on willpower. Almost like if you watched Naruto, when Rock Lee was just getting the crap beaten out of him by Gaara and is just standing up on willpower alone. He's kind of got that vacant look in his eyes. He doesn't look like he should be standing. Kenny Omega would have fallen any other man at this point. Another thing that wasn't in my notes here, but I want to bring up because this is important, is that big thing in Kenny's matches with Okada is that the matches have gone well over an hour. So Omega has a lot more stamina than Tanahashi has. And you really see that at this point in the match. Tanahashi's fighting just to stay on his feet while Omega still looks like he's got plenty left in the tank. Following the table spot where Tanahashi just crashed through that whole thing, it really looks like he's just completely spent at this point, while Omega is able to continue to go, which goes well with the theme of Omega going over an hour in 2 matches with Okada. Where are we now? Let's see. There's a cute little spot where it looks like they're about to do their Rise to the Challenge spot. This is a very common thing you see in Japan, where they will press heads against each other while they're down and lean into each other as they stand up, like none of them are ready to back down. But Tanahashi just kind of leans back, falls back, and Kenny has to go forward and pick him up. Beautiful thing there. Let's see. Kenny tries to end it. He's setting up the One-Winged Angel. Tanahashi is able to get out of it. He's got no energy left, though. He's powerless to stop an incoming V-trigger. He almost just kind of like looks around and sees the V-trigger coming. Doesn't even get his hands up. Just eats it right in the face. He is just tenderized right in the face with the high knee. Kenny's now hitting his high spots. He hits a reverse Rana. Let's see. Tanahashi manages to hit the high fly flow twice. But it's not enough. Kenny kicks out with one of the closest near falls that I've ever seen. You see Red Shoes, the referee. He, at the 2 count, just kind of raises his hands up like, what's it going to take for this match to end? And then informs everyone it was just a 2 count. It looked like it might have been the end, but nope, that was just a 2. Let's see. Around this point, you see Tanahashi bust out the Dragon Suplex, which is very much a Kenny Omega move. And Chris Charlton mentions that Tanahashi won his first singles Tokyo Dome main event with the Dragon Suplex. So it's good to see him going all the way back to then, busting out moves that he was doing then to try to win against Omega here. Let's see. Then Omega hits a Dragon Suplex of his own, just like we saw at Wrestle Kingdom 11. He does a Dragon Suplex off the top rope. Horrifying move for Tanahashi to take, but Tanahashi, being Tanahashi, doesn't land on his neck. He instead over-rotates and lands on his chest, almost face down. So he gets all the air, almost like he moonsaults, almost, and crashes onto the mat. Kenny goes for the One-Winged Angel again, but Tanahashi is able to reverse it into what looks like a corkscrew meteora, is what I would call it. Looked really odd. I almost thought it was a botch at first, but if it was, he just ran with it. The whole point was that he was getting out of that. He hits a sling blade and then follows it up with a high fly flow. 1, 2, 3. Tanahashi is the new IWGP champion. Overall, really enthralling match. Not something that I would have probably been as into if it weren't for knowing the history between the two. But going back and watching a second time and taking notes like I did here, you really get an appreciation for how everything that Tanahashi does is done for a reason. There was no spot where it's just like, oh, now's the time for me to do the sling blade. It wasn't a Seth Rollins superplex into a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. He did something to set up something else later on in the match. This match went on about 40 minutes, about as long as this video now. And it's just everything mattered. Everything in that match mattered. It was I'm sure Dave Meltzer's going to rate this over 5 stars. For what it is, I don't think I would have given it anything over 5, but when you really look at this from a wrestling perspective, it is absolutely the formula for a 5-star classic. It's got the story, it's got the good moves. The story continues to be told in the ring as well. Everyone does everything right. There's no botches in this match that I could tell. And the crowd was way into it. So this is absolutely the main event that we should have gotten for Wrestle Kingdom. It's what you want to close your show on. Tanahashi always does, like, it tries to do an air guitar, but he apologizes to the crowd. He says, after that match, I'm just so tired. Like, he just wrestled 35 minutes. And he's over 40, so it's no surprise that he might be tired. But he still manages to bust out the air guitar and give the audience what they want to see. He's just that entertainer. He's going to send everyone home happy and do everything in his power to do so. So it's very interesting that he's the champion again. Kenny Omega looks like he is on the way out to sign with All Elite Wrestling. It's theorized that him joining All Elite Wrestling is actually going to reopen the door for All Elite to have a partnership with New Japan, because New Japan really does not want to lose Kenny, which makes sense as they try to move into an American expansion. So they want to be able to hold on to him and use him as much as they can for their purposes. So it'll be interesting to see where we go moving forward with that. But the story now is that Jay White is stepping up to Tanahashi and saying, hey, I beat Okada and I beat you in the G1. I think I am the number 1 contender at your belt. And they will be fighting February 3rd for the IWGP title. Tanahashi is at a point where he does not need a lengthy title run and could possibly put over Jay White by dropping the belt to him. And you might claim that it's too early, but this is exactly what they did with Okada too. And Okada is just a god in the sport of wrestling. So Tanahashi might be tagging with Okada for a while, just to kind of take a little bit of the burden off of him, and also to help Okada become a more complete ace and take the title back from Jay White. It's really good to see him as the Rainmaker again, but we want him to continue to rise. We don't want to see Okada just plateau here at this point. We want Okada to continue to grow and continue to give us more years of exciting professional wrestling. So overall, Wrestle Kingdom 13 was it was absolutely great. I don't regret being up at 2 a.m. to watch this live. I watched it a second time with a friend, showed it to him. Really, really, really great show. I know some of the matches I wasn't really able to give a whole lot of in-depth analysis on, but some of those is just kind of like, it's a popcorn match. You know, you can just watch it and be excited for what it is, what's going on there and there. But the running theme with New Japan is that they will keep things exciting, and sometimes they can taper off a little bit. There's no weekly schedule like you get with WWE. So I think they get a little bit more freedom to do that. They don't have to... The content that they do produce is able to have a little bit more thought. I remember reading that Gedo apparently books 2 years in advance. But I'm getting into the differences between New Japan and WWE here. I should probably make that another video. But that was Wrestle Kingdom 13. It's in the books. We're now looking forward to Wrestle Kingdom 14, January 4th, 2020. Looking to be a 2-day show. Hopefully we'll get some clarification on that. See what that's about. If you are interested in finding some other wrestling, New Japan is in my opinion, the next best thing to be watching. I think it's better than WWE personally, but I think this is because there's not so much content out there to keep up with. I think it's easier to follow, and the wrestling is just really good. We'll see what the landscape for 2019 as far as wrestling goes is going to look like as All Elite Wrestling starts to take shape, and we'll see if they continue that alliance with New Japan moving forward. So, sorry, it's 45 minutes now, so I'm going to stop talking. We should be following up with an analysis on the Royal Rumble. Might have some guest hosts here so that I can do a little bit of conversation back and forth, and I'm not just talking for 45 minutes straight. So, let me know what your thoughts were on Wrestle Kingdom 13 in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Share with anyone that you want to get involved with, get into wrestling then. And I look forward to doing more of these videos in the future. Thank you.